because at $4,000, he was a bit stunned by it. He said, that's a lot of money. And I said, yeah, but if I get you what you need in the next 30 days, you're going to make a lot of money. And he said, that's right.
Why 99% of businesses fail in the first 5 years then?
Because they won't invest in those first two ingredients.
So you learned from the positives, people who showed you the correct way,
yes.
And you learned from the people who showed you the wrong way too.
And so both became learning lessons. We're not going to get rich quick. We're going to grow steadily. And if you start to something, stick with it, that you will grow. Well, how much college training do you have? And I said none. And I asked him, what's more important, that I can show you a degree or I can get you what you need to have done? Don't work for wages, work for a percentage of what you're going to do for the company. In other words, start with the destination in mind. Where are we going to end up? If it's going to be the moon, well then let's figure out what it's going to take to get there.
Shelby Wilson, welcome to the show.
This is good to be here. Thank you.
So to give context to the people listening and watching,
yes,
we met at, I was shooting your training,
yes,
your sales training for your employees. And I kept coming, so it's a 3-day training, and I kept coming back to Diana and tell her like how much I'm learning from filming that training. And not only Diana, but I kept talking about you for everybody, even my BNI group and stuff. So everybody out there who are watching this will finally meet you in video. So I appreciate you taking time and talking to me today.
My pleasure to be here. And you were a great student, which is surprising because we hired you to be a videographer. And what we had heard is that normally when you're filming, you'll put on your headset or you'll work on your computer while they're doing, and yet the whole time you were listening and participating in our class. And I went, wow.
Yeah. And I thought that this was the best masterclass on sales I've ever attended. And I'm someone who consumes a lot of content. I listen to a lot of books. I watch YouTube. I listen to podcasts all the time. I'm a sucker for knowledge, as I kept telling you. And the material being taught by you those 3 days were transformational for me. And that's how I told you, Shelby, you're a well-kept secret. This is incredible. That's what I wanted to push you, is to push you to share this with the world.
So let's share it.
Let's
do it, Naja. Let's share it with the world.
Excellent. I want to, before going into the business side, I want to share Shelby the person, because you are a complete secret to the internet. So how was your childhood like?
Childhood was, I grew up in a military family, Air Force family. We traveled throughout the United States, but also in the world for 13 months. I lived in the northern part of Africa in a country called Morocco, French Morocco, North Africa. So I grew up I'm the oldest of 10 children, 8 boys, 2 girls, Air Force family. My father finally retired in the 60s in it's a large base, Beale Air Force Base up in Northern California. From there, he retired. We moved to Sacramento. Sacramento's where I met my bride. We moved to the Bay Area, had our first child, moved into Southern California, had our second child. And that's my entire story in a nutshell.
I want to take back to the teenage life and high school, college. Have you went to college? You did not go to college. What was your take on college?
Yeah, my take was I went to college for 3 months and partied the whole time. But in all seriousness, I kind of realized that I had received scholarships to go to college, but at the particular time, it was more important for me to just simply go get inside of the work environment. And so that's what I did.
And what was your first job?
First job was working in besides delivering newspaper, that was my very first job. But my first job of working for someone else was cleaning a pizza. It was a janitorial job. So cleaning a pizza place at night as a teenager. Then I went to work in an automobile parts store. And from there, I went to work at a store called Mervyn's Department Store. And that's where I really started getting into working for the corporate America. And during that time, I had something happen where someone told me that I should be in sales. And I was afraid to go in sales because it wasn't the guaranteed salary that you get every week. And so as a result, this guy convinced me. He said, why don't you take a week off? Can you get a week's paid vacation off? And he said, yes. He said, well, come work for me for that 1 week. And so in 1 week, I made more money than I did in 3 weeks of working where I was. And so from there, that's how I got inside of sales.
Why do you think he said that you're going to be good in sales?
That's a good question, because I see people today and I will say the same thing, and it's not because they talk a lot. Sometimes because people talk a lot, they say you'll make a good salesperson. I don't find that to be the case. I think that there's some things that good salespeople understand how to understand people. And if you can do that, understand people, know how to communicate with them, I think it helps a lot. So I don't know why. He saw something.
Right. And from there on, sales become your thing that you do.
Absolutely.
And what were you selling at the time?
At that particular time, it was automobiles. So we were leasing automobiles. That's what he was doing. And so that led into leasing automobiles and then selling used automobiles. And that was my entry into the world of selling.
And your childhood leading into excelling at sales, do you think there's any element in your childhood that contributed to the fact that you become good at sales?
I do. I think part of it is my parents both pushed for education, and I think that was a big part of being successful. My dad also, because there were 10 children, he taught us how to work. And so nothing was just given to us. We had to work, and we had to work all the way through whatever the project we were doing. And so I think those elements, and I'd have to give some more thought to it, Naja, but I think just thinking back, what would have contributed to success, hard work, discipline, my parents' desire. My dad would reward us if we brought home more A's on our report card, and he'd reward us with being able to go for a steak dinner. And so he set those goals before us. So I think things like that is what helped.
Mm-hmm. And there is a beautiful saying that I learned a long time ago. It says, the books you read and the people you meet. And to summarize that part of your life as your career is taking an upward turn, what would you think of, is there anybody, a person who taught you things, lessons, important lessons, and or a book that highly influenced your development?
I would answer yes to both of those questions. Yes to both of those questions. Insofar as people, I can point to 4 people in my life that were my mentors. 2 of them taught me how to do things correctly. 2 of them taught me that using shortcuts was not the way to go, but they both served as my mentors. So insofar as people, it would be 4. Insofar as books, there would be 2. One of them is the Bible itself, and I say that not as a religious discussion, but the book itself is a fascinating book, a record of human history, human life, everything. And then there's another book, a small little book called How to Sell Anything to Anybody. It was written by Joe Girard. Interestingly enough, he was a car salesperson. And the Guinness Book of World Records lists him as the world's best salesperson. Now, that always surprised me because I always wondered why I wasn't in that book. But somehow, Guinness found Joe Girard. Joe Girard was a car salesperson, and he wrote a book called How to Sell Anything to Anybody. And that single book was the greatest book I ever read on sales. And to this day, it's what I live by when I'm selling. It's what I teach when I'm teaching. Now, I'll just give you one small other little book that came into play, and it was called Grinding It Out by Ray Kroc, because as I developed my career as a salesperson, I started moving towards consulting, which I'm sure we'll get to later. But insofar as consulting, I found a niche inside of the franchise world, and Ray Kroc was my inspiration for how to do franchising. So 2 books, 3 books. The Bible, How to Sell Anything to Anyone, and Grinding It Out by Ray Kroc. Those are my 3 books.
Right. And what about the humans, the people? You mentioned 4.
There were 4. One of them was Mervyn Morris. He was the founder and the creator of Mervyn's Department Store, where I worked. He taught me that business. He was one of my ones that taught me business correctly. Another was James Piper. I worked for him, and he helped me to understand the same thing also, that we're not going to get rich quick, but we're going to grow steadily. And if you start to something, stick with it, that you will grow. The other two people I won't mention by name because I don't want it ever to be critical, but it was the very first person that ever hired me in sales. But he showed me a lot of the shortcuts, how to get rich quick. And those never did work. Even to this day, he's still pursuing. This is 40 years later, and he's still pursuing how to get rich. And then I had another person that taught me that you can grow by using other people's money. But if you're going to use other people's money to be able to start any venture, then you also have to keep in mind that you owe them that money back. So I won't mention that person's name either.
So you learned from the positives.
Yes.
So there are people who showed you the
correct way to do it. Yes.
And you learned from the people who showed you the wrong way too.
And so both became learning lessons, because in life you will learn that there's times where you don't first of all, we know that you need to be honest, but there comes the things where bending the truth a little, well, you find out that's not the way to do it. Mm-hmm. She wanted to know if I could tell you about Mervyn Morris, the person that founded Mervyn's, which incidentally later he went on to sell to Dayton Hudson, a huge chain. But I was with Mervyn's when he just had opened his 14th store. And it was interesting, the team that he hired, he did the same thing that Ray Kroc did. He paid attention to the small details. So when you're opening a first store, the greatest challenge is to open up a second store, because you got to duplicate what made the first one successful. Same thing with Ray Kroc when he wanted to open up the first franchise, the second franchise. How do you duplicate what was successful with the first? So Mervyn Morris was a person that came in, was always kind to people, but had a very specific system of how he was going to run. I was working in the receiving part of it, the warehouse part of it, but I got a chance to kind of interact with all of the department managers. And so I saw how accounting was done, how production was done, the marketing was done. So at a very early age, I started seeing some of the elements that go into running a successful business.
Yeah. Okay. So now you're growing in your career as a salesperson.
Mm-hmm.
And now, when was the moment where you went and started your own consulting business?
Good question. One of the people that I said was my two mentors, I worked for him for 10 years. And one of the things I kept asking him for was, could we get a percentage of what we were helping him build? Just a percentage of it, because there comes a time, if you ever study anything with Maslow's theory of hierarchy, you start realizing that humans will reach a point where once they have their physical needs taken care of, then there's other needs that they want to rise to. And so part of me, I was making good money at the time, but I didn't want to just work for someone. I wanted to also work for myself. And so we'd ask him, could we get some of this? And he said yes. And told us that he'd have the attorneys get the documents ready. 6 months later, we asked, are they ready? He said, no, they're still working on them. A year later, they're still working on them. 18 months later, they're almost done. And at the 24-month mark, I realized it wasn't going to happen. And through a series of events, I left corporate America. I thought that it would be very easy for me to get back in because I was at the top of my game at that time. I told my wife we'd take a couple weeks off, which we did. I came back. I started putting resumes out, and I started putting resumes out for what I was earning at the time that I left corporate America. And I did not realize that no one would hire you for that amount. And so it finally got to the point where I wanted to, if I was going to make that income, I knew that I was going to have to work for myself. And so I had kept looking, started using up our savings. Finally, I used up all of our savings, still hadn't had any employment, got down to some of the worst days of my life. I remember my car being repossessed. I'll never forget the picture of my wife and son sitting on the front porch as they were locking up our house because they had foreclosed on our house. That night we slept in the bedroom of the living room floor of one of my friends. We slept there for 2 weeks. So I'd kind of hit financial rock bottom. And I knew the only way to move forward was I was going to have to work for myself. And I didn't know what I could do. I hadn't finished college. I knew that I was good in sales. And so I decided, after talking to quite a few of my friends, they told me that, well, what I did something interesting, Naja. I had them put on a piece of paper, if money's no object, what do you see me doing? Because I didn't know what to do. I was confused at the time, didn't know what I was going to do. And so some of my friends wrote down something, and I got the pieces of paper. When I put it all together, it came out to be the ideal thing for me would be to be a kindergarten teacher. That's kind of when I added these things all up, a kindergarten teacher. And so what I understood about that was that they were all telling me that I have a way that I can teach in a way that even a third grader can understand it. So if you can take big complex things and break it down to where a child would understand it, well, then you can teach anyone anything. And so I remember getting my Rolodex. That's what we called it back in those days. Do you know what a Rolodex is, Naja?
It's with the business cards or the contact information of everybody. Yeah.
So I got my Rolodex, and I was sitting in the garage, out in the garage with a little table that I'd made, and I started in the A's, and I just started calling, and I called friends, and I said, hi, I'm a consultant now. Opened up a consultancy business, and they said, well, what are you consulting? And I said, sales. And basically what I was saying is that if you know anyone that needs any assistance in their sales department, let me know. So I got through the A's, got through the B's, got to the C, got my first bite, and I was able to go and meet with this person. He said he needed help in his sales department. I asked him, what did he need? He said, I need this. I said, I can do that for you. And he said, well, how much college training do you have? And I said, none. And I asked him, what's more important, that I can show you a degree or I can get you what you need to have done? And he says, well, can you get me what I need done? I said, what you need done, I can get done with your sales team in 30 days. And he found that a bit unusual. And I said, well, here, let's just make it simple. If I don't get you there in 30 days, you owe me nothing. But if I get you there in 30 days, then you're going to owe me. And I didn't know what a number to make up. I just knew that we were trying to pay rent at our apartment and trying to get some food on the table. So I made up a number, and I said $4,000. And I'll tell you a story about that later, because that $4,000, he was a bit stunned by it. He said, that's a lot of money. And I said, yeah, but if I get you what you need in the next 30 days, you're going to make a lot of money. And he said, that's right. So that was my very first job. Did I get off topic?
No, that's
Okay.
exactly. And my follow-up is that, okay, what happened next? I'm curious.
Okay. So we had a chance to meet with the team. It was, for me, it was a very easy assignment, but it's like anything for people that really don't understand. What he needed to do is he was doing a whole lot of gross sales, but a very low gross profit. And so what he needed to do was increase his gross profit, keep the sales the same. He really didn't need to increase his sales. But what he needed to do is create the gross profit that it was sold at. So it was an easy assignment for me, and that's why I said I could do it in 30 days. So what had happened is the gross profit percentage that he was at, we came in, met with the sales team, showed them a different way to sell the same product they were selling, and we tripled the gross profit. And so when I went in to meet with him, I typed up an invoice. It had 0001 on it. I kind of changed that so it didn't look like it was my first invoice ever. So I took it in and I presented it to him. And I had never worked at a corporate level. I mean, had a client like this at this level, because it was he did $14 million a year. So I was just trying to make all of the documents look correct and send it in. And I gave him the invoice, and he looked at it and he went, is this what we agreed to? And I said, yes. And he said, okay. So he called his assistant in and said, prepare Mr. Wilson a check for $4,000. So she brought the check in a few minutes later. And I was concerned because I didn't want to have, bad vibes going on. And I said, isn't that what we agreed to? Didn't we agree to $4,000? And he said, yes. He said, I thought you meant $4,000 a day. I didn't know that you meant so that was a huge eye opener for me, that I didn't realize, working with companies at this level, that consultants could charge that kind of money. But he also helped me to learn a lesson that day by saying, so I'm going to pay you the $4,000. But I was thankful for it. But the nice thing about that, Naja, that led to him telling someone else. And for my entire career, I've never had to go look for a single client. They've all come to me.
Yeah. And I've shot myself in the foot so many times before, but that was huge. Like between $4,000 in 13 days. Imagine $4,000 every day.
20 days of work. Yeah. So the biggest lesson I got from that is always work if you truly believe that you're going to have an impact on someone's business, which at the time I started my consulting business, someone told me something that was slightly negative. They said, well, if you can't keep a job, you can become a teacher. If you can't teach, you can become a consultant. And so consultant was kind of viewed as the lower end. And that's why I came up with the philosophy or the model that if I don't get you to where you want to go, well, then don't pay me, because I would not accept a job that I knew I could not get them to that point. And so the biggest lesson that he taught me is don't work for wages, work for a percentage of what you're going to do for the company. So there was my start.
And that sets you on the consulting as a business owner of a consulting firm.
Yes.
So during that career, what are the triumphs, the big wins that you got, and what are the worst moments of being a business owner?
Yeah, it's interesting because probably my worst moment and my best moment are all shared with the exact same client.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I won't go into all of those details other than the fact that we took a company that was struggling and came in and completely turned it in a 180-degree direction. It eventually shot through the roof. And then at the same time, I had some things changed inside of an agreement that I had, which changed it. And when it came time to get paid, there were some shenanigans that were pulled. I ended up in an extensive lawsuit for 3 years. And so my greatest joys of being a consultant and also my worst were all shared by the same client. But for me, the work that I've done as a consultant, I would do free because I absolutely love it. It's one of those things where sometimes I don't even know how I got to be what it is that I do, other than the fact that going back to what my dad taught me when I spoke to you about staying consistent with things. My dad was a carpenter also, and I'd watch him take a blank piece of wood and start to structure and to build and build and build. And he finally came up with this beautiful piece of furniture. And this is my dad, no education in it at all. But what he taught us is that you can build things in its stages. And if you put all the pieces together, then it comes together. And so the one thing that I understood about business is that, remember, I'd learned how to watch a business built correctly and how not to do it. So when you really come down to the fundamentals of business, it really comes down to if you followed a procedure, kind of like building a house. If you follow the steps that it takes to successfully build a house, you're going to end up with the final product. It might have got delayed due to rainstorms or things along the way, shortage of supplies, but you're going to end up with a house. It's the same way with a business. If you follow the proven steps of how to build a business, so people like Ray Kroc was a salesperson just like me. That's why I was so fascinated by him. He was a salesperson. He had a huge territory. His territory went from Chicago all the way over to California, and he was selling milkshake mixers, right?
I watched the movie.
Yeah. Milkshake mixers, although the book is better than the movie because,
always.
Yeah, the book really showed some more details. But the point is that he was a salesperson and he had this big territory to cover. And he had one of these clients out in San Bernardino that was burning through these milkshake mixers at a rate that none of his other clients. So he flew out to kind of find out who is this client. And to make a long story short, when he basically got permission to take this idea back to Chicago, which is what he asked for, he was now going to enter inside the world of making these hamburger stands. Well, his biggest challenge was, how do I make the first one? How do I duplicate what I saw out there? And his book tells about the process of duplicating. One of the fascinating chapters was the difficulty in duplicating the French fries. He tells it took 7 months to be able to duplicate that. But the whole thing is that he knew as a salesperson, his expertise was not in administration. It was not in production. So the first 2 employees that he hired, he said, I have nothing that I can pay you, but I can give you a percentage of what I know I'm going to build. And so one of those ladies, I think she's still alive today, lives in San Diego, June. She was given 10% of McDonald's. Well, 10% of McDonald's a day would be worth quite a bit, wouldn't it? Almost as much as you, worth of you, huh, Najee? No, but in order to start up a business, you have to surround yourself with money and expertise. And so Ray Kroc, with a very limited ability to start, and that's why I say he's my hero when it comes to how did I do what I did as a consultant in franchising.
Yeah. The way a few Sundays ago when we had lunch, when you explained your critical path method.
Yes.
And you said building a business is just like building a house.
Exactly.
You put it on a timeline and all of that.
Yeah.
But if it was that simple, why 99% of businesses fail in the first 5 years then?
It's a good question because they won't invest in those first 2 ingredients. Remember I told you that there's 4 steps to build a business. Step 1 is the most difficult part, and that's to come up with the dream, the vision. So someone may come up with an idea. They've been working for a mechanic. They're the top mechanic at a dealership, right? And they've been working there for 15, 20 years. And they've worked their way up. They're the number one mechanic there. In fact, when people come in, they go, I want such and such to work on my car. And so such and such gets to thinking, wow, the dealership is charging $120 an hour, and I'm getting paid $35 an hour. Wonder if I went and opened up my own business. I could get that money. And so whatever causes people to want to have that dream, that Maslow's hierarchy, to break through and go for something greater, they have their savings. They've had some 401k. They build up. They've been watching this business that they're working in, and they think they got it. They think they understand it. They certainly know the production part of it. And so they leave out, they get a place, they buy some tools, and they go, I'm now going to open up Jerry's automobile repair. Well, they fail to understand there's 3 other major elements that if they did not pay attention to, they're not going to have it at their business. So they open up. They got the nice tools. They got the nice garage. Well, they're now going to need, number 1, they're going to need their phone to ring. So how are they going to get their phone to ring? They get on the phone. They call everyone they know. Hey, I've started up a business. They'll go print up some flyers and go hang them on cars along in parking lots. Maybe back in those days, they would get inside of the yellow pages. Today, they'll get inside of Google. But the point is, they don't know how to do marketing. So they have to start somewhere because we got to get the phone to ring. Then when the phone rings, department number 2 is they got to sell. They don't know how to sell. They think selling is maybe if I could appeal with them to a lower price. So they'll say something like, at the dealership, you're paying $130 an hour, but at our place, you can pay $85 an hour. So their mentality for selling is how to get the price lower. Whereas what they really don't realize, they could have got the exact same price that the dealership was getting or more if they understood features and benefits. Okay, so now they've started up. They got their marketing going to the best of their ability. They've got their sales going. Now the work comes in and they've got to do the work. So because they're the mechanic, and that's the easy part, they get that done. And at the end of the day, the 4th part is administration. So paying the taxes, paying the insurance, reordering your supplies, and so on and so on. And when does the point come where we can finally hire our first employee? Well, the reality is that cycle that people get inside of not knowing who's going to be their next employee, what is going to be the amount, because it never got thought out from the beginning. It ends up that by the time they reach 2 years, and that's the federal government that says that, the SBA says that usually within 2 years, 90% of businesses fail. So there's an old saying that if you fail to plan, then plan to fail. Sounds a little gimmicky, but it's absolutely true. So I'll use this comparison, Naja. I think it's the one I use with you at lunchtime. If you have a nice 1 acre piece of land, and that back piece of land or whatever person has 1 acre piece of land and they say, I want to build a house on it. And they go, good. So he says, I'm going to get down to Home Depot. I'm going to buy some lumber. I'm going to buy some nails. I'm going to buy some screws, some electrical wire, some concrete, and I'm just going to start building. Well, what are you going to build? I don't know, but I'm going to build a house and it's going to be a beauty. Well, what size is it going to be? I don't know. How many stories are going to be? I don't know. I'm just going to go and we're going to work hard. We're going to work 7 days a week and we're going to see just where is this going to end up. Well, that's exactly, as ludicrous as that sounds, that's how people start businesses. They start businesses and go, I don't know what this is going to go to. I don't know how many pies I'm going to be able to sell, but I'm just going to work hard. And I'm going to cross my fingers that it's all going to come together. So the number one reason why businesses fail is because they fail to plan. So what does it take? It takes the same thing it takes to build a house. Number one, there's 4 steps to building a house. Step number 1, someone's got to come up with the idea. That's whoever has the property. You know what? I'd like to build a 2-story house. And we got to force them to really explain the vision. So don't be afraid to dream. Tell me the vision. Well, I want it 2 stories. I want to have a man cave at the bottom. I want the master bedroom up and so on, so on, and so on. And when you get that out of them, then we go to step number 2. We have to spend time and money to go over to an architect. Now, the architect has been trained in taking step 1, your vision, and getting it turned into what's called the blueprints. But in order to do that, he has to interview you. So tell me, when you say two stories, what do you mean? I'm going to show you some pictures. Here's what we could do. Do you want to? No, you don't want to. And that's time. That could be months and months of getting a vision from you into his head to where he finally has it. And he says, I got it. Here are the blueprints for your house. This is your house. Those blueprints are so detailed and so exact, he can send those down to an illustrator, and the illustrator can take those details and paint a nice 3D picture, a colorful picture, and say, there's your house. He can even take it down to a model maker and give those blueprints to a model maker, and the model maker will build a little miniature version and go, there's your house. That's what it's going to look like. So that's step 2. Step 1, remember, is to create the vision. Step 2 is we've got to design it. It's got to be designed. We got to get it to blueprints. Once it's designed, that is the house. It's the house in its full details. Number 3, we have to go get an engineer. The full term is a PERT CPM, PERT/CPM. The last part of that is critical path method. And the easiest way that I explain that is if you take any building, like this building we're in right now, and we make a list from 1 to 1,000. And on line 1, we say, take the carpet out. Number 2, take the chairs and furniture out. Number 3, take the lights out. Number 4, see, if we keep doing that list, we're eventually going to end up with nothing but a slab of concrete here because we have deconstructed the building. Well, if you flip that list upside down, you now have the order to rebuild the building. And so that is what's called a CPM. It's a critical path method. What it's saying is start with your finished product, start with this building that's done, and now unbuild it. So a person that's building a CPM will take the architect's plans and go, that's the finished plan. Let me unbuild it. And as he unbuilds it, he'll get all the way back to the point where we're here at the very beginning with a blank piece of property. So what he's going to say is week 1, we've got to clear the property of all of the garbage, the foliage that's on it. Week number 2, we start digging the trenches for the underground. Week number 3, we bring in the underground sewage and piping. Week number 4. And so that PERT CPM basically will count up all of the weeks backwards, and it will say, so in 72 weeks, we'll have this house finished. In 72 weeks, here's what needs to be done in week 1, week 2, week 3. Now, someone may come and visit you at week 11 and say, Naja, I thought you said you were building a new house here. And you go, I am. You haven't seen everything that has went into it. You haven't been there when the architect plans were being drawn. You weren't there when the CPM was. And if you were there, you would see that in week 11, we're right on target because we're doing this. So why don't you come back at week 17? Because I'll tell you what you're going to see at week 17. So when you're able to understand that step 2 requires time and money, And step 3 requires time and money. Then by the time we get to step 4, it's just simply executing what has to be done each week. Every week, we have to do this. We can't fast forward. We can't shortcut. We can't say, that was boring during week 4, putting the sewage in. I just want to skip that. No, because if you skip that, by the time your house is done, you have nowhere to flush your sewage. So the point is, all of that, it takes place, and maybe around week 30, there's a big storm, and none of the workers can come in. And so we get delayed. Well, that doesn't stop the house from building. It just means that we said it was going to take 75 weeks, and now it's going to take 79 weeks. But the point is, the house is going to be built. It's the exact same way with a business. Is that every business that is going to be built, if we can sit down and get the owner to come up with the vision. So what do you want? And so often, they're not going to know where they want the business to be, and that's where you got to sit and force them. But I want you to think. And if we can't get them to think in those terms, we get them to think in financial terms. So tell me, what would be a good amount of business that this business is paying you once you get it to where you want it? What would you be doing? Would you be working 40 hours a week? Would you be working 20 hours a week? Would you have a staff? So help me understand what's ideal. And that takes time. It's the exact same amount of time that an architect needs to spend with a person to get that vision. But see, once a person tells me, like, I'll give you an example. If a person's been working for corporate America, maybe they've worked their way up to $8,000 a month income. And so they may say, well, Shelby, I'd like to be able to get to $10,000 a month income. Go, good. Tell me, what does that mean? That's a nice number, but tell me, what does it mean? Tell me, what kind of car does it mean you'll drive? What type of house will you live in? How many vacations will you take a year? What vacations, how long will those last? Will you be putting something aside for banking or for a rainy day, and so on and so on? So what it really does, when it comes down to it, we come up with a number. Maybe it's 14,000. So the reality is here's your business, brand new, it's making zero. We've got to get it to where it's clearing $14,000 a month so it can pay your lifestyle, because you're telling me that this lifestyle will take care of your taxes, vacation for you, the house that you want to live in. We can always increase it later on, but let's set a place where we're going to get it. So with me, as a consultant, I'm able to take a look and tell them we'll be able to do this in 175 weeks or whatever the case may be.
So you give them that timeline based on the deconstruction.
The deconstruction.
That we talked about during the house build.
And then we execute the plan week by week. We had a franchise. Where we did something very interesting. I'll just tell you this real quick. Mm-hmm. We were able to tell the franchises, which is illegal in California unless you can prove it with audited statements. So we had franchisees, potential franchisees, we would tell them, we will guarantee you that in your first 13 weeks after you go back home from this training, we will guarantee you that you will make this amount of money in your first 13 weeks. And if you don't, we'll refund all of your money. Now, that's big in the franchising world because, see, usually to be safe, banks will say, you'll hear things like, well, business really won't break even until the first year, first 2 years and stuff like that. So for us to sell a product and we say, after you leave and go back home, in your first 13 weeks, we're going to guarantee you this amount of money, or we'll refund the money of your franchise. See, in order to do that, we had to understand the process of each week, execute the game plan. So we would tell them, here's what you're going to do week 1 when you get home. Here's what you're going to do week 2 when you get home. Here's what you're going to do week 3. Now, you've got to execute this plan. We're going to have a coach calling you and to make sure. So during your very first week, when we have you doing this, some of your neighbors that see you might go, I thought you said you're building a franchise and you're going to be making a lot of money. And you go, I am. Mm-hmm. I'm executing week 1 of my game plan. I'm digging the trenches.
I love it. And it's the delayed gratification. It's the discipline in planning.
Yeah.
And and a lot of people fail because as soon as they start a business, they announce it to the world, and then they become hostage to that announcement because they feel that other people are expecting them to become a overnight sensation, just like they glamorize those people that they, Elon Musk and all of that. People are glamorizing. They think that these are overnight sensation. Where
Yeah. And the big thing is that 85% of everyone that starts up a small business, 85% of them, they come with production expertise. See, the four major expertises that it takes to run a business are administrative. So you understand how to do planning, numbers, finances, all that, administrative. Marketing, you know how to make a phone ring. Sales, you know how to sell successfully. And then finally, production, you know how to do the service that needs to be done. So 85, if you take 100 people that are starting a small business, 85 of them come from the production standpoint. They were the workers. They were the ones that laid the carpet. They were the ones that repaired the automobile. They were the baker that baked the wedding cakes and decorate them. They come from, so when you have 85% of people that are starting up a brand new business and they come from the production part of it, the three key elements to supplement the production: how to get the phone to ring, how to sell successfully, and then how to take care of all the administrative, they don't know. So I'll give you an example. When I do trainings with classes of people that are looking to become a business owner, when I get to the part on marketing, I'll give them all a simple little question. I'll say, so for every 100 flyers that we pass out, how many leads do you think that we will get, right? These are brand new people, never been inside of business for themselves. And so we're looking to teach them a very fundamental thing about marketing. So I ask them, so we're going to get down, we're going to get 100 flyers. We're going to go pass those all out. How many times will our phone ring? And so I get all the answers. 10, 15. One person once said 60. And so when I give them the answer that when you're done with that 100, you got to go pass out 100 more to get your phone to ring one time. You see, so their whole idea of what it's going to take to get the phone ring, they have no clue. And so they go out and they will get 500 flyers and they'll go send them out, and we're going to have more business than anything. And when they don't have it, and they don't know what went wrong. Well, what they really don't realize is to pass out 200 flyers and to get one lead is very good. Are there ways to do better? Yes, but they're not going to be able to afford a lot of those ways when they're first starting their business, right? So they're looking at, how can I jumpstart my business? Yeah, so that's just one.
And we're gonna. This is a series of episodes. So this is just
this is just part one. They're
getting just the taste of Shelby's wisdom. So we're very grateful to have you. The last 10 or more years, you've been leading Rudy's Pest Control.
Rudy's Termite Pest Control.
Multiple questions here, but one is like, this is a long-term commitment. Is this usually the terms that you take?
I don't like to take more than 250 weeks. That's what I like to take. In this case, it's turned out to be much longer for much different reasons. A part of it is because this is my final client that I'm taking, so I'm not taking on any more clients. And the second of all is that with some of the different stages that this project has had to go through, there were ways that we could have done it in a much faster, shorter way. And the owner has since subsequently come back to me and said, I wish we would have done it that way, but we didn't. So the reality is that this project, I haven't really put a timeline on the end of it. What I have put is I've put a dollar figure that we will take it to.
Mm-hmm. And how is it going so far?
Right on track.
Perfect.
Yeah, right on track. And then we've had the pleasure of getting associated with some great vendors, and our newest vendor is one that's called Parrots Lab. Oh my goodness, they're amazing. What we're going to be able to do with them.
Yeah, we look forward as well to this long term, hopefully, and doing great things together. So I'm really excited. And what's your next chapter look like?
Chapter of my life?
Yeah.
Well, my wife and I we love travel. We love good food. But first and foremost, we have always enjoyed helping people to learn the Bible. And so my wife's been doing that full time for the last 35 years. And now I get to join her in that because it proves to be very satisfying, a very satisfying way of life for us. So that's where I see that. A few of my little hobbies, I'm going to learn to play guitar. Mm-hmm. I have a drone that I'm going to learn how to fly. Mm-hmm. So I can come take aerial pictures for a company called Parrots Lab. Mm-hmm. You might hear me say Parrots Lab a few times. It's because it's a fascinating organization. Let's see. So, and then I may even try to take up cooking. My wife seems to think that I may be good inside the kitchen. So those could be three of the areas I'm going to go to.
I might need to take her permission to steal you for more content. And hopefully we get to get your book up and running too.
Wow, isn't that going to be exciting?
I am most pumped about that part because I get to play, because I get to not only like learn and be in your company and get mentored by you on an ongoing basis, but also have the words of wisdom that you have spread to as many people as possible, because the way you help me understand all of this stuff, it's tremendously valuable for other business owners who are starting out to learn this stuff. And because the economy is built on small businesses. We want people to start businesses, but we want to educate them too. And part of that legacy that, we wish that you will be doing is sharing this with the
very essence of what humans are is we want to work for ourselves. That's where last names came from. Carpenter, shoemaker, baker. That's where it all came from. It's what the family did. It's what we did. But it wasn't until the Industrial Revolution that they needed to start bringing people in to run the machines. So when they started bringing people in to run the machines, how can they keep them there doing a monotonous thing day after day after day? Well, they'd say, you know what, if you can do this for another year, we're going to raise the amount that we're paying you. And we're going to give you weekends off. And we're going to pay your medical for you. And so all of these things were designed just to get people to leave there. And so we're at a point now where 6 out of 7 Americans work for someone. And that's good. That's good. There's only 1 out of 7 that will really branch out to go work for themselves. But for me, anyone that will take the risk to go work for themselves, I live that. And with my wife was there backing me 100%. When I got all the way down to nothing, I had only one way to go, and that was forward. And so my teaching of sales comes from not theory, not from school books. It comes from real life. And that's what happens in my teaching. My teaching is going to be the real life. It's a real passion. And that's why we're able to help. And it really doesn't matter what the product is. The majority of all small businesses are in the service industry. There's only 2 types of businesses. Number 1, you're in manufacturing. Number 2, you're in service. So the majority of all businesses are in service. This is beautiful. Ray Kroc, when he got to his, I forgot what it was, maybe his 1,000th franchise. Harvard, one of these big, I think it was Harvard University, invited him to give a speech. And one of the students said, so what's it like having 1,000 hamburger places? He goes, I don't know. I can tell you what it's like to have 1,000 businesses because that's what I've done. I've put people in business. It so happens that they do hamburgers. And that's the majority of businesses. It so happens that we're in the service industry.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that caught your attention because when you attended my training, you realized that you and I were in the same business.
Holy crap.
And you went, wait a minute. How is pest control the same as video?
Right.
Well, we're in the service industry.
Absolutely.
We make people happy.
Yeah.
Just like you make me happy.
Thank you. You make me happy.
Oh. What about Diana and Sharon? Do they make us happy?
They do. They do.
They make us happy.
So what people can expect from that journey, from that book? Because what we're doing is that we're taking that book, we're dividing it into chapters, just like you build a house. Mm-hmm. And then each chapter is going to be a conversation, a podcast, a series of questions that we will answer.
Yes.
And then we put all of this together and we turn it into a complete book.
Nice.
So what listeners and readers could expect from that project?
Yeah. if you want to go into self-employment, this is going to be the absolute best way to do it.
Completely.
Completely. Doesn't matter what your business is going to be, but it's going to be, are you willing to do it? That's what it's going to come down to. So the reality is that there is a reason why successful people have become successful. And there's a reason why businesses that have failed. So often people want to point to, oh, he was at the right place at the right time.
Luck.
That can be true. Sometimes people want to point towards luck. That's true. But all you have to do is pick up any of the books that has been written by anyone successful, and you'll find out that while luck may have come in somewhere, while things may have fell into place somewhere, it was the determination that they started off with. And once they reached a hurdle, they did not stop. The vision of where they were going still existed. They just had to find a way to get around it. And that's what happens when you have a plan. See, when you know the house that you're going to have and my second floor and my man cave I'm going to have, and when that is clear in your vision, then nothing's going to stop you from getting there.
Absolutely. So the reason why I brought a giant moon into this set is because business owners or business ownership is a moonshot. It's something, as you said, 6 out of 7, they don't do it. It takes a lot of it takes a lot of bravery to venture into that and to pursue something like that. So the driver behind that leap usually is a strong driver. And so I always ask my guests here, like, what's your moonshot? What is the transformation that you want to see in the world? She got me into this.
Yeah, no. So part of this, I may have to clearly understand what a moonshot is. When the United States landed on the moon, they did not have their fingers crossed. So we're not talking about a finger crossing thing. That was very much calculated, whole lot of winning, and they landed on the moon. So when we talk about a moonshot, that's what I understand a moonshot to be. In other words, start with the destination in mind. Where are we going to end up? If it's going to be the moon, well, then let's figure out what it's going to take to get there. If it's going to be $15,000 a month income, then let's figure out what it's going to be there. If it's going to be having a job where you have 10 employees working inside of it and you get to simply oversee them, that's fine. If it's taking a job and working it for 5 years and then selling it for 4 times what you invested in it. In other words, where are we going to go? So moonshot to me sounds a bit like cross our fingers and see where we're going to go. My goal for 5 years is with my final client in 104 weeks, I then want to be able to walk away from it. So January 17th, we put that in place a while ago, and now we're right on target for January 17th, which is to turn the day-to-day operations of this client over to a management team. From there, I will take it 2 more years or 104 more weeks, working it through a explosive growth process. From there, at that time, I would like to take the company for sale if the owner wants to take it to sale. I've already promised him what it will be. You will be able to sell the company for this amount of money, guaranteed. Now, if he decides to sell it, fine, we'll be done then. If he decides, no, I want to keeping it, I don't know if you have it. If so, then I'm going to need to interrogate it. I want to hear it so that we can get it committed to. Because see, here's the thing. If I decide that with this piece of land that I want to build a house, a 4-bedroom house, and so on, and then halfway through, I decide, I wish I would have did 6 bedrooms. That's okay. We set that on the back burner. We go ahead and finish this one because this is already into effect. We finish this one. Now when we're done, we can sit down and do a revised dream. You know what? Now I want to take this to 6 bedrooms and blah, blah, blah. So we can always add on, but let's commit to where we're going to get and then go get that. Don't settle for less.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you have a vision yet, my friend.
Yes, I do. And
then we need to talk about it.
Definitely. I recently was sponsoring Rise and Shine in Redlands Chamber of Commerce, and I literally used those words. I said, I have a dream.
Oh, good.
And that dream is to see a studio like this in every city nationwide so that business owners have platform to go in on a monthly basis or weekly basis and create content, because right now we are living in the town square is the internet. No, there is no longer social media become the town square of people. This is where people congregate 2.5 hours every single day.
Right.
They're spent on those platforms. And so if any business owner or change maker or nonprofit needs to address the people, I think they need help, because right now social media is not as simple as pulling up your phone and recording yourself. There's
Correct.
so much to it. And so my dream is to see a studio in every single city.
Okay. That's too big of a dream.
I know.
That's vague. So that's the first thing I'm going to tell you. That's too vague.
Mm-hmm.
So now, do we want to come up with, let's draw a circle on a map?
Of course.
And let's come up with the first 15? Because see, once we make the first 15, and then what's going to be the way that we're going to expand it? Are we going to expand it through the franchise model?
Mm-hmm.
See, if we're going to expand it through the franchise model, that's one story. Are we going to expand it through the In-N-Out model? You know what the In-N-Out model is? They own every one of them.
Yeah.
So that vision, it's grand.
It's grand.
It's grand, but let's get it to a manageable size that you will be happy with in 3 years. Now, 3 years becomes 156 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Now we got to take a look at what we have to do and break down a CPRM for 156 weeks.
Yes.
Or whatever the case is. Sure. So that's nice what you're aspiring for, but that's just like saying, what do you want to do? I want to build a house. How big? I want a big house. I want a big house. Well, how big do you want it? I want it big.
Massive.
Yeah, I want it bigger than any house in Beaumont or Bannock. Okay, that's nice, but let's get some tangibles to it. We got to get some tangibles to it.
Absolutely.
So I think that's a beautiful vision, by the way. It's a beautiful vision.
They say when you dream big. So that's my dream big.
Yeah. Well, the very fact that you want to do that is good. Now we need to start putting it into, all right, let's get something measurable. Let's get something definitive. Because there's ways to do that. What you're speaking about right now is very easy. If I were going to advise you, I would tell you that there's two major ways you can, or there's three major ways you can do it. Number one, you can do it all with your own money. That's going to be the slowest way, because you got to take profit from each and put it into the second. Number two, we live in one of the richest countries on the face of the earth, so we can use OPM, which is other people's money. So there's people that will invest inside that idea that you have. You're giving up ownership, but that's okay. It's better to have 40% of a watermelon than 100% of a grape. So giving up ownership, there's nothing wrong with that. And then the third way, which is through the franchise model. If I were going to do any of those, it would be the first two. I'd recommend that you just do it with your own money. That's the very slowest way, but you have 100% control over the entire growth. The second way, which is if you really get the first model down, that becomes very easy to duplicate. And now with other people's money, we don't have to go out and wait till we have this much in our coffers or borrow this much from the bank. We can bring it in. And we can open up a studio in Riverside, California. We know how to do the marketing for it. We know how to do the production. We know how to do the sales. We know how to do the admin. And we can run that office through this office. You know, it becomes a satellite office. So there's just lots of ways to do it, but we have to get to a manageable size first. So I would take a circle. I would draw it on a map. I would say, now, which cities inside of these? I would do demographic studies. How many people are surrounded these? What ages are they? This is the age that we're looking for. Let's do these 8 cities first.
I love how empowering that is. Like,
it is empowering.
You take a giant dream and you allow me to dream and you allow other business owners to dream, but then you don't say it's impossible. You say, oh, let's break it down. It's doable.
Exactly. Well, let me ask you this. Are you a beef eater? Are you a meat eater? Do you eat beef?
Yeah.
Can you eat a whole cow?
No. I mean, maybe I can if I...
Can you eat a whole cow?
Yes.
Yes, you can. One bite at a time.
That's true.
You see?
Yeah.
See, that's what our minds immediately go, oh, no, because we're not looking at it correctly. Mm-hmm. See, one bite at a time. You can eat a whole cow. You've probably eaten a whole cow in your lifetime.
Yeah.
Maybe quite a few of them. We had some delicious, we had chicken today. We had some beef in there too. Yeah, we had some beef. So the point is every project, it's like, I'll give you a thing, like my little thing about, I was raised in an Air Force family, as I told you. So I grew up loving planes, loving planes. One of our, Sharon and I's trip to France, she couldn't find me for 6 hours. I was over at the end of Charles de Gaulle runway, just watching the planes come in. That is my joy. Well, I say that because growing up around planes, I wanted to be a pilot. So I get out of school and I find out that you can become a pilot if you take the time and have the money. So I went down and found out, well, how much would it cost to become a pilot? And they told me, and I didn't have that kind of money, but I said, let me divide this into 52 pieces. And when I divided it into 52 pieces, I knew what I needed to do each week. So sacrifice a lunch or two, save a little here, whatever it is, and do it. And so that's what I did. I started. And 48 weeks later, I was a pilot. So the point is, it's just, we can look at that and go, wow, I could never become a pilot. Well, yes, you could, if you take a look at step-by-step processes.
I love it. Thank you. Thank you so much for everything. Like,
yes.
You're such a treasure. And thank you for allowing me the honor to present you to the world.
Yes, thank you for taking that honor to do it, that time to do it. And thank you. Would you give me a chance, or would you use this to make sure you send a message to Diana, letting her know how much we appreciated lunch today?
I would. Actually, she's listening.
Very nice. All right. Thank you.